Welcome back, everybody, to another drawing commentary. This one, thank you for being here. This one was definitely a challenge for me, just because I wanted to use the entire big canvas on this one. Usually, I'm just using my little ones for like sketching and ideas. But this one, I had a couple ideas that I wanted to put down, specifically these cutouts from the local newspaper, the Eagle Times. And so there's a couple of photos that I saw that kind of caught my eye, and I didn't really know how I wanted to put them down. I just kind of looked at them for a second and put it where it seemed fit and right. Um, and so you can't really see, but that's a little dog at the bottom right. He's just like peeking over the edge. I found these flowers when I was on my way to the beach, and so I brought them back, dried them out, and then I added them to the photo. You see that there's a cat that's up for adoption at the top left. It looks like a baseball field at the bottom left. It's like food, groceries in the center right, and then in top center there's like a pier, or like a was supposed to be like a something like that. And so I started with like a little squiggly line right there, and then I've had this idea for a while of making like an American flag, but I was scared to commit because I don't want to make a political statement right now. But I decided to meet myself halfway and at least give it like, that's supposed to be like the stripe. And so that was kind of something to deal with, especially if I wanted to start drawing above it, because I had to keep my wrist up. So that really limited how much control I had over my drawing up there on the top part. So I decided to mostly do some drawing down here. Started some V's, turned it to make it kind of like a pine tree. I considered making like trees in the background, but I felt like that was a little too boring. I wanted to try something different, try something new. And so I started off by making like little Shenron horns for like a dragon that I figured was going to be here. Because I thought, okay, maybe that red line could be like the body of a dragon that's like cutting across the image and then circling back. And so I started putting down some teeth and some eyes and the nose. I don't fully commit to that idea either. Uh, just keeping things free and open. So those right there are supposed to be like the rest of his or its body, like flying in and out of the field of view. Maybe there's gonna be like clouds, but it's like the top of the body is gonna be like green. I ended up giving up on this idea completely. Not completely, but just started applying some new things. And so at this point, I kind of saw like pencil sketches down there that kind of look like exactly what you see right there. And I kind of like try to use it's dark out, so I wasn't able to see if it was actually there, if I was just like seeing things. But I decided to make it and just kind of like let it breathe, like sit with it for a little bit. And so it's still going with the American flag idea, but not really. Putting up the little like place where the stars would go at the top left. At this point, the white really blocked out the cat, and so I was really sad with that. But life goes on. What are you gonna do? Mistakes happen, and we'll see where it goes. And so as you can see, I'm trying to apply a little bit of the red on the outside of the dragon to kind of like give the dragon's face some form. But I over exaggerate how big the face is. I don't want to make it too skinny. And then Marissa actually looked at it and she mentioned that it kind of reminds her of a heart with the ventricles at the top. And so I am glad that she's able to see that, and I think I want to move forward with that interpretation, kind of make it look more like a heart. And so down here, I wanted to keep working on that little squiggle that I made earlier. And so I'm like trying to make some sort of like creepy monster or something. You see like it kind of looks like eyes and a nose and a mouth, but I didn't want to commit to that shape. And so I tried to like make this creature feel like in pain, like in the way it moves. So like, creaky and like hunched over and what have you, like one arm bent over, and like those are little fingers. And so these are like the fingers in the foreground that are reaching for that like twisted tree thing down there. And so I'm liking where that's going, and so I decided to. I don't want to overdo it with the paint, um, but I'm just having a really hard time getting the face to look exactly how I want it to. Like I can see it in my mind's eye, but getting it onto the paper with the medium of the paint and the chalk is just wasn't working out. Um, and so I continued to make this like twisted, gnarled monster thing. Tried to draw it as if it was in pain, if that makes sense. And I, I do see that kind of like feeling in it, especially with the way that the chest cavity is like stretched out, almost like being torn in different directions. Almost looks like an infant state where the monster's like laying on the back with its arms and legs reaching outwards. It almost looked kind of like the Giga Chad meme, and so I was a little afraid of that. Um, and so I'll come back to that later. Going back up to the Shenron horns, I decided to use yellow because again, you know, it was like a nicer, or not nicer, but like lighter color than like the dark purple that I put underneath it. So here, continuing to commit to the rolling green hills idea. And so at this point, I'm starting to realize that like the things above the red line are like kind of like nicer and happier, and they give you a better feeling. And then the stuff below it, it's like nastier. Um, you know, like the dead flowers, the tilted park, baseball park, and everything. And then that little squiggly guy in the corner. I do recognize that the little squiggles start to look kind of like a being again, you know, sitting on its back with the facing kind of like at a 45-degree angle between looking at the park and looking at you, the viewer. And okay, so at this point, I wanted to make like one very solid black line to cut underneath the red, and I had a little bit of extra purple that I wanted to scrape off of that um, chalk. As you can see, the line didn't line up completely, and so that was unfortunate. But you know, things happen. I'm going to come back to that one eventually. You'll see, trust me on that one. And then again, you know, trying to apply some of this black paint down here at the bottom left without obscuring the baseball park. And at this point, I started to recognize that these two, the blobs, it's one stacked on top of each other, starts to look like a body, a head and body. So I decided to give this creature some big fat arms, big fat fingers, kind of reminiscent of Rick and Morty go to the Bush World when they hang out with, I think, Reggie or something at the end. Spoiler alert. But yeah, just personified these splotches. The second one, give them like legs. You won't really be able to see it though, unfortunately. Now, when it comes to this little creature, I did want to give him like eyes and like bloodshot eyes, like looking all like eerie, kind of like think of something like Invader Zim or Salad Fingers. Unfortunately, I splotched on the red paint a little too heavily, so it wasn't going to look. The first two you could see, those were pretty decent, but that third one up there, that was a little too heavy, and so I stepped away from that idea and decided to connect the lines of the creature to make it like a little body, hands and arms and legs. I gave him little sunspots, scalp warts, growth on his up his left eye, and he's just now he's gonna have green skin. And the cool thing about this green that I applied to the skin, to the face, is that it kind of it takes it takes that face away from the creature, and now the creature looks like the left eye is now the head, and now the rest of the body is still the body. And so I really like how that turned out. Sometimes when I look at it, I have to remind myself that the creature is the green part thing is part of the creature. Now, I was tempted to make a big old eye, because that's my thing, but instead I wanted to make something like a doorway. Think of like the Temple of Boom album cover from Cypress Hill. I wanted to have that kind of mystery, mystique, as you like enter, and so I was able to kind of better increase the line, the dark line underneath the red line. Made it connect from almost the left side all the way to the right, and then almost completely covered up those white spots. Now I will be able to fill those in later, or keep them. We'll see. They might add to the final product. Those are the legs that I was telling you about that you'd have a hard time seeing. And when I was showing that to Marissa, she was saying that it seemed like the newspaper was put on top of the cartoon person. So, fun fact, it was opposite. And now with this, I want to make it look more like a chasm, like a cave. So I wanted to give like some sort of, it's not a stalactite or a stalagmite because they're connected, but that kind of idea that here's a pillar that's holding up